This is the Expression Podcast with me, Neha, and there's so much more that we're learning about Deepthi Bopaiah. Keep watching.
You never know what some small gestures or things that you do can have huge impact later.
Are you a Sachin fan?
Yeah. He actually decided that he will, through his network, felicitate the 4 winners of Rio Paralympics. 3 of them we were supporting at that point of time. You have to look at sport and society together to see impact.
So I'm a huge Dravid fan. And how did it feel when Dravid was on board and established a program with you?
We created this Rahul Dravid Athlete Mentorship Program. After we started this program, we always say he then went and took up the mentor role in many places.
As a common man, how can I contribute when I come across an athlete who shows immense talent but is not getting the right opportunity or recognition?
I think in those cases, that's exactly why we exist.
I'm thrilled to have Deepthi Bopaiah today on Expressions podcast. Let's get to know her more. So I was into swimming, state levels, and I know the rigorous training that goes behind, getting to that competitive level. So what was it like for you in your early days? And I know you also were participating in state level basketball and tennis. So can you talk to us about that a little bit?
I think it was a very different time. How we approach sport also was very different. And I think it's also the conversations you're having at home, right? Or in school or people around you, because it was, you play, you enjoy, you do well. But it was never about the big, large tournaments and events. And though, I remember watching all the Grand Slams and everything with my dad and mom and sister, we would watch it. At that time, it didn't strike that if you actually worked hard, you can be there, right? So I think there was this, I don't know if it's social media, and today everything seems 3 degrees away. Even at school and college and everything when we played, I think it was more about that time. It served all our purposes. It was fun. We made the best friends. We had the best experiences. We had the worst experiences. We've stayed in, that time when you used to travel for competitions and stuff, it was very expensive. So we'd all huddle up into 1 or 2 rooms and stay there and figure out everything. We were put in hostels and, just some random desks given to us when we went for university tournaments and stuff. So the model was very different. Today, I think such things cannot be done so easily, I would say. It still happens in different pockets. But really, I think it's awareness, education, and opportunities. Today, if you met someone and someone said, hey, I'm a professional badminton player, you'd be like, oh, wow, that's great, But 10 years back, if you said that, they're like, okay, but what else do you do? You play badminton, that's great, but what else do you do? What do you do for a living? So I think finding a business model, at the end of the day, we have a life to live. We all have families, we have passions, we have interests that need money. And, only passion will not be enough. You need to find a way that it's sustainable. And I think for athletes, it becomes a challenge because just to throw some data again, if you looked at badminton as a sport, which is so popular, say 10 years ago, you had probably 500, 600 people playing at the nationals, and you'd have about 70, 80 jobs through public sector companies. But today you have 3,000 to 5,000 kids playing nationals, and for the same 7,500 jobs. So there's no new jobs being created, and people are giving everything they have into sport. And which is why very recently Pulela Gopichand, who's also on our board, said that only rich kids should play sport. I mean, it got debated and the entire interview was not taken, but only that one line, got published. But what he really meant is if we don't build an ecosystem of more and more companies coming and hiring people who've played sport, because the skill sets you built through sport is very unique. We know how to fail. We know how to plan. We know how to organize. We know how to come up with an idea. We know how to think on our feet. We can do so many different things which probably if you've not played sport,
Yeah.
you may not know, and you may deal with situations very differently.
Yeah.
So when somebody has built that type of a character and can be so good to a corporate, to an organization, I'd really urge, through your platform as well, more people come forward and hire people who've been at national levels and all of that, because today there is open schooling and today you're doing a combination of it, but still a large part of the life is not in school. You're learning on the road, you're learning through experiences, you're learning through travel, which is so unique, right? So I think it is our responsibility as a society to allow people who played sport at a certain level to get an opportunity to transition into a career beyond sport or in sport. I think it's a collective responsibility of stakeholders like us. We have started working on it actively, and we want to put a post-career athlete program as well, so that, at 24, 25, I know, okay, I've made it to the top 50 in the world. I don't know if I can go further. What next? Right? And you have to build the skills for these young girls and boys to allow them to live the rest of their life well, just the way they played sport. So I think it's a responsibility. It's a work in progress right now. More conversations need to happen in this way. We need to get our athletes to get skilled along the way while they play. So yeah, I think it's tough because it's for parents today. It's very expensive. Why are scholarships and other organizations scholarships and funding helps is even for a upper middle class family. Sending your child for 10 tournaments means 15, 18 lakhs right there just for the tournament. That's not even covering your travel, and if it's a minor, you're going to travel with a parent or a guardian, and if you're a person with disability, then depending on your disability, you will have 2 people traveling with you or 1 person traveling with you. Then you have, so you're talking about a lot of money, 25, 30 lakhs to just park aside for sport, not knowing if this is going to come back to me in any way. It's a very big, bold decision, but we still feel it's worth pursuing because that one person, if given the opportunity, could go ahead and bring us all the accolades we need.
While you were saying, I was just wanting to understand, do you feel this sense of purpose, sense of density when you're working with GoSports, since you've been at it for so many years?
Absolutely. I think for me, when I was in the bank, first of all, I never thought I'll ever be a banker growing up. But then, opportunities led me to that. And when you're in B school, you want to get placed on day 0, and usually the banks are there on day 0. So, but I'm so grateful, to have been part of HSBC, because a lot of what I do today, I think my training ground on systems, processes, managing money, looking at how people see money, value money, I think came from there. But every 18 months, I would sit with my boss and say, I'm done. I just can't do this. What am I doing? What am I waking up so early, working so hard and doing these targets? And I did pretty well. In the banking world, it's quite cool. I was a vice president in like 6 years of joining the bank and in the retail banking side. And so everything was going for me. And it was also difficult conversations with my family, and they're like, and typically in India, when you talk about helping or supporting, it's always volunteering. Nobody thinks of walking into something, and GoSports was just 3 people at that point of time, and I'd met, our founders, and I loved their vision. And
so the transition was smooth?
No, I quit in my papers actually 3 times. Before it got finally accepted. So I did one sports memorabilia auction in between while I was in the bank, where my bosses said, go and volunteer. So I did the volunteering, and then I came back and I was like, oh my God, there is so much to do and I want to go. But for me, I think when you spoke about purpose, very early on, not that I was working on something specific, trying to find my purpose, but I just did not find the meaning of what am I doing in terms of creating impact and changing lives. For 6 years, the purpose I had put in, and thanks to my bosses and mentors and everybody else, we're obviously selling investments and insurance, and if you look at it as actually building wealth and safeguarding people, and actually insurance is not life insurance but death insurance, because it actually goes to people when they're not there. So I think I found purpose in that, and it took me for that 6 years, at that point of time. But then after that I was like, what am I doing? And 2012 was also the Olympics, and I had one of these incidents with my colleagues where they were refusing to watch the Olympics and they wanted to watch a football match, and I was just like so irritated and so bugged, and like, what is wrong with us Indians? I mean, why are we not? And someone very easily said, we just don't have it in us. We Indians can't do sport. And it just bothered me so badly. And I was like, I have to find. And I think for me, that was a trigger to start finding. So then I looked, can I work in the federation? Can I work here? Can I work there? Then through some common friends, I met Abhishek Lakshminarayan, who's one of our other trustees. And, thanks to him, he convinced me about bank is fine. We need you in this world. And I think we were just 15, 18 athletes at that point of time. And just the potential of nation building through sport and creating role models for India, I think that continues to resonate with me. And I feel that's the purpose. I mean, today we're using sport as that vehicle. Otherwise, if you think of role model, we think of only cricket. We think of only Bollywood, right? But today you'll talk about a PV Sindhu, you'll talk about a Deepa Karmakar, you'll talk about Chirag, Satvik. I can go on in the list, right? Lakshya. You have so many different people who people know today beyond just cricket and Bollywood. So I think it's special. So having a purpose and linking that purpose and making it your passion has helped me so far, because otherwise it's tough. You can look at it as, oh my God, you're asking for, and I sometimes when I meet some of my old clients who are very good friends now from the bank, and I'm like, I'm still asking for money only. It's just that it's not going into your account, it's going into some purpose, right? So I think finding that space was important for me, and I'm a very restless person. I need something to keep happening. So I think I've been able to bring a lot of my passions into this, and the kind of people I've got to meet, right from young athletes, their parents in the smallest parts of this country, which I would have never traveled to, right into board meetings and leadership teams and Bollywood and cricketers. And I don't think I would have done all of that if I was sitting in the bank, right? So it opened a whole new world, which I'm extremely grateful for. But also feel responsible that you keep going, you keep changing the goalpost, you keep seeing how we can continue to build India through sport.
I think you have a cool career. What were your influences that impacted, taking this forward? In terms of who, I would say, or
I don't have like one person, because when ambition is not a very nice word when women talk about it, right? It's like, oh yeah, you should do this, but not that I came from that thing, but even then nobody said, oh, you have to become the CEO, you have to go win awards. That conversation has never happened. But I think something for my sister and me has been about how to be your best version of yourself. How you keep pushing yourself. And I think that's what we do even with athletes, right? Can you constantly become better and become better mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually? I think I am a very spiritual person in the last couple of years, and it's opened a whole new world which I never knew existed. So I think fortunate to have mentors, parents. My dad has always said, do your best, whatever your best, do your best, and work hard. But sometimes you can work hard, but you don't get the results or the recognition or whatever it is. But I think over here, I've been quite blessed. And it's all our athletes, right? It's their results we get to talk about it. We get to be part of their journey, but it's them. It's the organization that has been created with this vision to nurture and who believes that excellence is worth pursuing. Because most of the time in a country like ours, I remember in B school, the first lesson we learned, it was an exercise that we did through our marketing professor. We learned Jugaad. That was the first thing. And over here, we are like, it is about discipline. It is about day-to-day steps. It's no shortcuts. And there is no shortcuts in sport, right? You just have to put in the work day in, day out, year after year, month after month. And I think that the contrast of the nation to what these individuals are actually doing day in and day out is so inspiring. Because nobody is asking them to wake up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., get ready, don't eat all the healthy food, train so hard, and you don't even know if you'll make it. And there are enough and more athletes, and huge respect for everyone who went on to that path, did that journey and still didn't make it. But that's what makes us who we are, right? You've done, you swam and you've seen that so many elements of how you relate to life will be because of those moments, right? Of just handling anything that comes your way.
Absolutely.
Because of, so you don't know how it impacts. So I keep encouraging all parents, they'll become a scientist, but they can also play sport. They can become a doctor, but they need sport. So sport is not always about the winning, but it's about all the life lessons that it gives us. And today with your social media, peer pressure, there's just so much of pressure on youngsters now, right? And you have news at the tip of your fingers from any part of the world. We have to wait for the next day's newspaper to even see our own photo and whether it's come correct and is it fine or not fine. We could not edit it. We couldn't do anything, right? So I think from there to here, it's a different world we're in. It's a different place. The challenges are different. So I don't think it's fair to also say, we did it like this, so you do it like this, right? I think what in our team, I think a couple of us increased the average age, but otherwise it's 25, 26, of the bunch of them. And they're a very different lot. They have chosen to be in this job as their first job. They didn't go do the rounds, realize passion. They like, I want to be here. I want to do this. And that is so cool. So how do you make the most of it from here? So I think we're learning from both sides.
I'd like to ask you that you mentioned mentors. Do you want to mention any names? Do you have anyone in mind?
I have a lot of mentors over the years.
Any special mention?
But I think one is a gentleman called Girish Manimaran. He runs, he's my executive coach still. I still go to him. He runs an organization called Stillwater Consulting. And I think he played an extremely important role in getting me to figure out that there's no work and life, it's just life. And you decide what you want to make of it. So I definitely, continue to go to him. I do also speak to Satish Andhra. He's another VC specialist, but again, has opened up my mind and world in different ways to think about what our life can really mean and contribute to. Rahul, Gopi, conversations with them have all been nothing short of mentorship sessions on just life and process. Our trustees. So I have a really good bunch of people. There's also Mrs. Chitra Nayak. She's somebody who I've been talking to in the last 2 years. And again, as a woman sitting on different boards, running different industries, very different challenges. I mean, those are things I didn't think about earlier on. While I have been speaking to a lot of people from very diverse industries, I think it's important to have mentors in our life. I think even in the bank, I had the good fortune of having mentors, and these are people I've gone up to and asked,
Yeah.
I have a few things, can I talk
Yeah.
to you? I think we shy away sometimes in saying, oh, why would they want to mentor us? But I think you should trust yourself enough that you'll also make it an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
It's not only one way where you're getting, but you're also going to share, and both are going to learn.
Yeah.
And I think finding my biggest takeaway from Girish has always been, how do you create a win-win situation for both people involved? Nobody needs to lose. It has to be a win-win for you. It has to be a win-win for them. So I really, get into every conversation like that. I think my sister is my biggest motivator, mentor, person who's gets the call every single time. And very, very blessed to have her. You don't sometimes think of your sister, your mom or dad as your mentors, but obviously they've been there around. But I think my sister and me keep, she heads customer service and obsession, it's called, in her bank in Axis.
Okay.
And again, moved multiple industries, and she's gone back to being a banker. so I think we do rely on each other heavily on many things.
Yeah. You work with many sports person and even the government. What have you learned of the Indian sports ecosystem?
I think we're evolving. We're getting better. We're probably the only country in the world that takes care of or has a scheme called the Target Olympic Podium Scheme by the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sport. I also sit on that committee with a lot of other athletes and administrators. So we are, actually supporting athletes from taxpayer funds to fund them for their sport. So I think that is very unique that India has created. Infrastructure we keep talking about infrastructure not being there, but I think we don't take care of our infrastructure well enough. We build it, but we don't maintain it, and we don't open it out to it. It's not play for fun. It's all play for money, play for, winning, play for things. So I think that part needs to change. I was recently at Australia for a sports conference, and over there people say, oh, your name's Deepthi. Okay, so what do you play? And that's what you're doing. You just go and play a sport. You don't do anything else, right? So the Indian sports ecosystem is evolving, I would say. We have some way to go, but definitely today, if you're a talented athlete in certain sports which are recognized by the government, which have a proper system, a federation, a governance, you will be noticed. I think it's a combination of that and social media, which is a very great mix. You will get noticed, you will get supported. There are many foundations like us doing a fantastic job. And honestly, this model doesn't happen anywhere else in the world. There is no civil society body, people coming together saying this is a problem worth solving, and also working in partnership with the government. So it is quite a unique model. But I would say Indian sport, we've come a long way. We have a long way to go. But we have to recognize that we have made some very good progress in different areas.
And earlier you were mentioning that us, when compared to the other countries, we still are lagging behind in a lot of things. So are there 2-3 areas you could mention where we could do better?
I think technology-wise, how do we use technology for sport and high performance and elite performance? I think that's a big area. So we don't have enough data analysts. We're relying a lot on international data. So if you say a 13-year-old in Bangalore should be jumping so much, or should be walking this fast, or should be able to do this in this timing, that data is compared to someone sitting outside our country. We should actually have that data for 13-year-olds here. Or 13-year-old in Bangalore is very different from a 13-year-old in Indore. And they're not growing in the same, because again, it's what we have access to. And so I think research, scientists, analysts, experts, the expertise for high performance, we are lacking today. But funding, spaces, training, coaching, to a large extent, at least in certain sports, we have that today. We built that, you know. So a lot of the results you're seeing now is work done over the last 1.5 decades that you're now seeing. So now the next problems to solve is really all of these people, you know, nutritionists and trainers, and they have careers now in sport, right? And these are some of them who've played sport and who've come back. So I think, how do we develop that market further?
So, from your experience, what are some of the challenges that Indian athletes and sports persons face today?
I mean, it really depends on the sport. There are some people who are doing so well in their sport but get zero recognition because nobody knows them. It's not broadcasted anywhere, but yet they are at it. And I think that is what I keep saying. That is the essence of an athlete. It does not matter. They will still pursue it because of that mad junoon dream that they have to keep going. So I think one is recognition at the right time, right place, support at the right time. And that's what we say, right? We will give you the right support at the right time to get to your next level. So as a country, we love the first places, right? So when someone comes back with a medal, whether it was a Neeraj or a Sindhu or all the others who came back with medals, we showered them with all the money. For the next many generations, I think they're fine, right? But what that same money, even half of that money, if it asked for 100 athletes who can become the future athletes, very tough to raise. So CSR has solved that problem to some extent. But for an individual athlete, beyond their sport, who am I beyond my sport? That is an area I think Indian athletes have to work on. Abhinav Bindra, you know, is one of those amazing athletes who also comes from a privileged background, but still made the first individual gold medal happen for India. But also went into depression after he won his medal because he had this razor focus for 20 years of his life. It was only about the gold medal, and then once it happened, he had to actually take off time and figure out so many things for himself. And even now, if you ask him, what will you tell your younger self? He'll say, I would have built some other skills and, you know, experiences and maybe had a little bit. I mean, in the hindsight, you can say that to our younger selves. But we want to make sure that an athlete knows they are so much more than their sport. They are not their sport. They are a human being first, who's very valuable, who plays sport, and who's trying to get the best out of what their body and their ecosystem can get out of them. So I think making sure athletes have a sustainable life during their career and after their career, I think is a collective social responsibility. Because these are people who are staying out of drugs, who are leading a very disciplined life. They're showing possibilities of the human mind, spirit, body. They're challenging themselves in every way. So they bring so much to the system, to the society, which we can all learn from. So I think it is a collective responsibility. So challenges, I see it in this way. Obviously, there is funding, there is experts, there is many other challenges. But I think these, for us, at least the way we see it at GoSports is, if we solve for this, the other things can get sorted. When there is a career in sport and I can just turn around and say, I am a hockey player, no questions asked, then you know you've solved something for the ecosystem.
Do you feel there is a gender bias against female athletes?
Definitely.
But do you think India is moving towards a better...
I think the world has this problem. It's not an India problem. And the more I'm traveling, it's not... Gender issues are not only in India, it's everywhere. Women are not in leadership positions in many countries. It's a fight across the world. But yes, over here, in smaller towns, it's a lot more. I think the fights are very, what we all would consider privilege, and, you know, walking out and wearing our shorts and running into a court is not so easy there, right? Because you have the people around you, you have your neighbors, you have people saying, isko kyun, you know, sports खेलने जा रहे हो क्योंकि they're not going to make it. There's a belief that you're wasting your time. Anyway, उनको शादी करना है. Oh, they'll become dark. They're spoiling their skin. Like, very, very, very things which you and I could probably take for granted is not so
highlighted very much over there.
But overall, if you see data, every female athlete that any organization or the system or the country has invested into has produced results. Very rarely, in fact, most of the Olympics, our girls only have won most of the medals, right? In the Olympics and in the Paralympics and Asian Games, the ratio is just getting better and better and better, right? Because I feel that these girls they're fighting so many battles. That medal is one of the battles, but they are fighting child marriage. They are fighting the ability to pursue their dreams. We have this blind athlete, and she's also an orphan, and her grandmother took care of her. And she's now studying for her, IAS exams. She wants to become an IAS officer. She also won an Asian Games medal. And but she's saying she had never traveled out of her small town in Karnataka. And all she wanted to do was sit on a train. And the only way she could do that is if she participated in sport and played this competition. So she learned the sport to sit on the train and travel, right? And she's blind. But that feeling of sitting, we just don't know what it can mean for so many different people. But we've seen some of those, stories come to life. So for girls, it's a lot more than just the sport. It's many things. We've seen that, but not to say boys, don't have challenges. I think there's a lot of pressure on boys, when we talk about mental health, we have lots of conversations, and I think boys are just expected to be so strong, and because you play sport, then you cannot have any emotions at all, and it is, we have so many heartbreaks in sport, and crying should be very natural because that's the first thing that happens in such high intense things. So we actually try to we have something called as an athletes conclave, which we do every year, where over 150 of our athletes come together in one place for 2 days and they learn together. So you have 13-year-olds meeting Olympians and Paralympians and just interacting with them and sharing. And one of the biggest things they say is it's okay to cry. It's okay to fail. And hearing, we can say it, but when they hear it from their stars, it's a very different feeling. So building that community and giving them that space is important. And right from day one of the foundation, we have worked with people with disabilities, we worked with able-bodied athletes, boys and girls, and in fact, we now have a higher ratio of women in the foundation. Even consciously within the team, in the last 2 years, we were very bad in our ratio with women. Now consciously made sure, in fact, we're now about 35% women in the team as well. Where about 60% of our athletes are women. Thanks to CSR, the focus is there on women. So I feel whenever there is an opportunity to make that choice, and if merit and talent is the same, you know what to choose.
I was curious when you were talking about these women from the village and the smaller towns. Do you in person actually go and meet them and their family?
Yeah, we do a very interesting piece in the foundation, which is a due diligence.
Okay.
So once an athlete applies and goes through all the process, we also want to know where these athletes come from, and we want to know that what they're saying and what is on ground. There is, it's all factual. I mean, there is a diligence audit part, but I think more from our team. So many of our team members, we get to travel across the country and go and see where they live, how they live, because until you know their backgrounds, you might see them breaking national records, but so much of them is their past, and all of us are our upbringings and our experiences and environment, right? So if you don't see that, it's very difficult. Like I remember going to one of the athletes' houses close to Chandigarh in some village, and he was a very good shot put thrower para athlete, and his parents could not believe he's actually in the nationals. So when I went there, they were like, sahi hai kya madam iska? So they like, what is he doing? He's going every day and training. They're like, he's really good. We want to support him. And they have like their cows sitting, I mean, just in a shed, right? 3, 4 siblings, all figuring out what to do. And despite that, you have this person smiling and going for training every day, making it, you know, so it all comes together. I think if we are able to see all these elements of what our job gives us, which is, I always try to tell our team, the resources and the money is one part of it, but we're getting an opportunity to be part of that athlete journey, which not too many people get to be, So I think
that's why I said you have a cool career.
Very cool.
So what was the most surreal moment at the Paris Olympic and Paralympic 2024 for you?
Paris had many heartbreaks, especially, I think, sitting in the badminton hall and, there were matches there was a match of Pranoy and Lakshya, both Indian players, and it was too early in the, draw that they both played together, and you're just sitting. One is pride that at the Olympics, at the highest level, you have 2 Indians playing at that match. That was really amazing, but it had happened at the back of Chirag Satvik, the other badminton players who were, they were really all set to win if everything went right. But that is sport. You can plan everything, but it may not happen on that day. So their match got over, and we were sitting with their family, and it was so heartbreaking. We were all weeping. We were just crying. We just couldn't control. So I remember some of them walked out, and I said, no, Lakshya and Pranoy are playing. I want to sit and watch that match. And I literally sobbing and still trying to cheer for them. And, it was, that for me was, it was one of those days that you're going to remember because, okay, that happened. You have to immediately let go of something and then come back. But just Paris was overall fascinating. I think how they built a sustainable games was incredible for me to see because we have so much to learn and come back to. They didn't really spend too much on infrastructure, and they used a lot of their existing stuff, and it is in the history of the Olympic Games the most sustainable games. So that was very nice to see how they made it happen.
Actually, my next thing was that what do you think is the biggest thing learned from this edition of Olympics for Indian sports?
I think all of us look at the number of medals. That is just one aspect. We need to look at number of 4th place finishes, 5th place finishes, 6th place finishes. We came into many quarterfinals. We actually had 6 4th place finishes, which means we would have been on the double medal tally as per what our plan was. It just didn't happen for different reasons. But in sport, we have to always constantly see how much we've moved. The movement sometimes doesn't have to always result in a medal, but the movement itself is very big. And especially when you're talking about 50, 80, 100 countries participating in a particular sport, these are people who've gone to the top 5 and top 8 and top 10. That is an achievement, right? There are that many people from that many countries competing. So I think lots of learnings for us on the high performance side. Some of us in the team were also there on ground, and we were able to get a sense of what other teams are doing. That was one big learning. How far we've come, and acknowledging that was another big learning. And 3, the high performance mindset and training in India, we have to get better at, much better at. I think that 1% of change is a fraction of 1,000 different things, and I feel we have some way to go in certain sports which can get us medals.
Any example you want to quote?
This is a funny example, but for example, sailing. We have some time to go to win medals, but you typically peak when you're 28, 29 because you need a lot of strength and you build and understand the temperature, environment, and all over a period of time. So this time we had one of our sailors, participating in the event, and we were generally talking to him, and we were like, we were very happy. We've sent a trainer and a physio and coach and everybody. We think that is the team. And then we were talking to him, and he's like, I think at some point we need to start working on having a wind specialist. So like, yeah, okay. so when you talk high performance, it's every single element. Right now it's like sending our athletes to war without many of the things which other people have.
Like a weather specialist, you're saying.
Yeah. Because they see how it is. Right now here the coach and the athlete and everybody or the team does it, right? Or otherwise it is, so it could be that, it could be a data analyst, it could be a recovery specialist. You also had the situation with the weight, right, of one of our athletes who lost the medal as well. But it's 100 grams is 100 grams, and you need to monitor it and track it in that way. So when when the stakes are so high, your expertise also has to be world class.
I agree.
So I think that is a big learning for us. We've that's what I said. Jugaad and Olympic, Paralympic sport cannot go hand in hand. It's okay for the other things, and I think we need to also figure that mind. It's a mindset. It's culturally inbuilt. We can. ये तो हो जाएगा. So yeah.
So having supported almost half the members of Paralympic in Tokyo during the 2020 edition, do you feel the para athletes are getting their due recognition, or finally getting their due recognition?
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, we have some way to go, because even when you look at the Paralympics, we don't participate in all the events at the Paralympics. We participate in athletics a lot, shooting and badminton. But there are a lot of events like boccia, for example. We've just started supporting athletes in boccia, where is neck below disability. So they have to hold the ball in the mouth and then do the action, right? So there are many events like that which we don't even participate. So I think there is recognition, and I think because of that, people are gravitating towards these three areas. But there are many other events. So we are very excited in GoSports now to pick all the other new sports which are not there, work with that, high disability, but that needs high attention, high care, support for them. When we came back from Rio, actually it is a nice story that we've not said too many times, but we had the good fortune of getting in touch with Sachin Tendulkar at that point of time, and he wanted to actually...
Are you a Sachin fan?
Yeah. He actually decided that he will, through his network and himself, want to felicitate the winners, the 4 winners of Rio Paralympics, where, and 3 of them we were supporting at that point of time. So we had a conversation with his team and sat down and all of that, and then we said, why only for these 4? There are about, I think total at that point of time, there were 12 para-athletes who won since Murlikant Petkarji, the first medalist. Till now, have not got any recognition, any funding. Can we do this bigger? So we kind of put that idea into their head, and they were like, okay, let's go for it. So we as GoSports were actually assigned to find all the past athletes, right from Murlikant Petkarji, and go and hand over 15 lakhs each to them. And 3, I think 2 of them had passed away. So we went to their family who had absolutely nothing, and just giving that money to them.
Must have been gold.
Thanks to them, right? So I'm saying that for the kids, at least they felt, oh, at least now my dad or mom's recognition came. And Murlikant Petkarji after that got his Arjuna award, and we wrote a lot about him, and his family was very kind, came down for our events, and he's very sweet. Even now he goes to every event and he'll be like, GoSports Foundation ne pehli baar mujhe very sweetly he says that. He was also at our conclave, encouraging the athletes. So I think you never know what some small gestures or things that you do can have huge impact later. And I think that's the story of GoSports. We've done small different things at different points to get us here, and we don't know why we do some things. I don't know where this conversation might lead from here, but I think for us, every time we've done something nice has come in through a collaboration or opened up for us, or we met some lovely people who come on board.
Yeah.
So I think we're just very open and happy to explore these kind of things. So Paralympics has definitely seen recognition, and then they were also on the Kapil Sharma show because Sony Pictures was one of our partners, and we were like, why can't we get them there? And I think that gave them a big boost because suddenly you had 4 medalists on Kapil Sharma's show and having a riot, So we were there on the sets and actually saw that. So I think you have to look at sport and society together to see impact. It can't just be medal.
Yeah.
It'll take you till there, but what after the medal? I mean that can't be my goal. We said it together. Yeah.
So does able-mindedness affect parasports? How do you feel your athletes and para-athletes view themselves during this program?
I think in my experience and in my team's experience, it is able-bodied people who don't know how to deal with people with disabilities. So it's we putting in the filters and they may not be able to. I think the only thing people with disabilities want is to be treated like you and me. They don't want anything extra. And they may need a little help. We help our old grandparents and people who can't move or people who fractured, and we help them. That's all they need. So I think they don't want to be superheroes. They don't want to be called, inspirational.
Just normal.
Just like you and me. And I think that's big learning. In fact, one of our athletes mentioned, I mean, this is something that happens very often and you can notice it, Imagine we both have gone and 2-3 people have joined us and there's another person on the wheelchair and you go to a restaurant. Firstly, you have to check whether the restaurant allows accessibility. All of that is an issue. But the waiter would usually come and keep a menu on everybody else's side except a person with disability or on a wheelchair. And this is something I've noticed, and she has brought it up many times. And she's like, so she has to keep saying, I have eyes, I have a mind, and I can read. So even if they go to a salon sometimes, they will turn around and see the person who's brought them and say, Inko kya haircut chahiye? So we do some the person who's doing it may not even know. And that's why I feel education is very important, right? If we don't talk about these things, and I always encourage people with disabilities to say these stories, because how will we know? We don't know. We're thinking we don't want to bother you, right? But they're like, but why should you think like that? I have a brain, I can speak, I can do everything. I just can't move on my own, right? So I think it's a lot to do in our own heads. So that's been a learning.
So for a differently abled athlete, how can one develop a winning mindset when they've already been told otherwise through their lives, all through their lives? How do you inspire them basically?
I think for us, it's really about giving them a platform and an opportunity to excel, right? Most of the times, they've been constantly told they're burdens in the family. Like, we have to spend so much more on you to take care of you, right? So I think when you come from that mindset, then saying I'll go play sport is tough. But we've seen, at least with the 100 para-athletes that we've had the opportunity to work with and interact with, all of them have had that one person in the family who's said, it's okay, go, ji le apni zindagi types, right? But there's this story of, this time's Paralympics, you would have seen the archers, Sheetal Devi and Rakesh ji. Rakesh ji actually had met with an accident with the family, and he's from Jammu. And for 3 to 4 years, he used to sit outside a tea shop because everybody said, your life's over, you can't do anything. So he used to just sit there at the tea shop, and a coach actually used to come there to have tea and then said, why are you sitting here and think, why don't you come and learn archery? So in a span of 3 years, he learned archery. He went on to break world records, went to the Paralympics, all in a very short period. And he said when he came back, he actually had marriage proposals. And he's like, if not for sport, I'd have been sitting again, in the
Alone,
coffee.
single.
So, yeah. So I think sport has given them an identity, has given them the ability to really show the mind is more powerful than our body.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's physical, right?
Yeah.
So it's the mind that is.
Yeah.
So I don't think there is something special that you do for them. The fact that they've picked themselves up
Yeah.
to choose to live and continue living with a smile on their face, we have to learn a lot. And I always, end up saying this, that at least what I've learned, one of my biggest takeaways of being at the foundation, working also with people with disabilities, is we're all currently able-bodied, and that could change. It could change because of an accident, a medical condition, negligence, old age, anything, right? So we are not prepared as a society for, we keep thinking, oh, differently abled, but all the old people also need the same kind of support and services and accessibility. We're not building parallel ecosystems, right? So the fights that, the policy level fights that are happening for people with disabilities sometimes seems very absurd. It's a basic right for them, to be included. And it could happen to anyone, right? So we just need to be really clear, because unless you're born with a disability, you don't know life any other way. But many of them, it has happened after living many years of their life. So I think the mental aspect and grit and determination, I don't think we teach them anything. We learn from them. So yeah, that is they have sports psychologists and all of that in their team. That is more for visualization. How do I handle the anxiety? How do I handle nervousness? That is in the time of play and game. But the general mindset is the mindset of a winner. And I think that's what sport teaches you. You don't get to the top if you don't have that champion mindset. And I think that's what keeps you in the made it and the ones who've not made it, right? Is the mind.
And in your journey, is there any story that really inspired you immensely?
That is a very long list. That will go on forever. But I think
anyone that comes top of your mind?
I think this, at least when we met a very young girl called Avni Lakhera, she's the Paralympic gold medalist, and they were on a family holiday, and they met with an accident, and unfortunately she had the worst hit of the entire family, and she had a really bad injury, was on the wheelchair, was on bed rest for almost 8 to 9 months. And while she was on bed rest, her father gifted her Abhinav Bindra's book to read, and there was also a shooting range close by, and she read that, and in 1 year she was shooting, and then she went to Tokyo and she won the Paralympic gold medal for us. And in between she also met Abhinav and spoke to him, because she was so inspired by his journey. And I think that is the power of storytelling, that is the power of a book, that is the power of inspiration, that is the power of a role model. Absolutely. And that is the power of sport. And for me, in this, everything comes together.
What are some of the brands that you've collaborated in your achievements through CSR? And can you talk to us about some of the best practices that you follow? And do they actually walk the talk?
Absolutely. I think the way our foundation has our thought process, as you've been hearing, ours is very about the role of sport in society, right? And also the pursuit of excellence. So all companies that have collaborated with us have that mindset. So they believe in nation building, they believe in the power of excellence, they believe excellence is worth pursuing, they believe that talent needs to be supported and nurtured to get results. They believe in it's not overnight. You might pick up a really talented athlete today and they may win a medal, which is great, but what does that medal do for that community, for that sport, can it like when Deepa Karmakar won, finished fourth at the uh, at Rio. She came back, and in every corner of India there were gymnastic studios opening up. Nobody knew only what is gymnastics till then, right? We knew a Nadia, but after that, an Indian from the northeast of India doing the Prodinova vault, which is a death vault, and only 5 people in the world do it. How is that even possible, right? So I think all our partners have understood that one person you can become a role model to influence and create change. So whether it's Aditya Birla Group, whether it's Infosys Foundation, whether it's AT&T, IndusInd Bank, HDFC, the Zerodha brothers have recently come on board, and that's a very special grant for us because it's a capacity building grant. It's the first capacity building grant in sport in India, because he's like, if you don't have good people working in this, it's going to be very tough. So with CSR also comes compliance and how much money you can spend, and the entire non-profit world struggles with this problem on having good people. You want great work, great impact, but you don't want to pay your people, right? So I think they were very generous, I would say, and kind to come on board to fund us with this capacity building grant. So there are different models in CSR, different practices that when CSR started to where we are now. But I think people are getting are defining it better for their own companies. And if there is more definition and clarity on areas that they like, I think then whether it's women, whether it's inclusion, disability, high performance, excellence, we can create a project for you in any area. We just are using it through sport. So we don't sit outside of we don't, it's not a sports project. And I feel if more and more companies start thinking of it like that, it would be very different.
And I also want to just ask you that, what do you think is your biggest learning dealing with them in so many years?
The intent of all the partners that we have, and we call them partners because we have the passion and the knowledge, but we need the funding and the support and the belief, right? That, okay, go figure this out and come back to us. So I think finding like-minded partners is very critical in any area of life. You need somebody who believes in a vision, believes in a thought process, believes in our philosophy, and believes that this is worth pursuing. So I think all our partners and our leadership teams and the CSR teams and everybody understand what we're doing, and based on that we're able to do it. But it's different for different organizations. Different organizations have different objectives. So and India is so large, we need 100 models here. So our model is slightly more the role of sport in society.
How important is mental health in sports today? Also, especially with elements like social media playing a major role in forming public opinions. What are your thoughts?
I think social media is an animal in itself, and mental health is, a bigger area for us to talk about. But mental health and sport, I think today conversations are happening more openly and freely. You have someone like the greatest athletes in the world are coming out and now talking about their struggles and their challenges and their mental health journeys. People are now saying, you know what, I'm not going to participate in this competition because I'm not ready. And that was unheard of a couple of years back. It didn't matter how you felt. You just show up and you just play. So I think the ability to understand our own minds and understand what's okay for me, what's okay for my body, what am I ready to put forward, I think is awareness. And the more we start creating awareness with younger athletes and educating them on all of this, it will help. All our programs have education workshops, have sessions where we talk to them about all these elements. But I think mental health and sport, long way to go, because you're considered itself as, oh, you're very strong, you're very, very positive, so you cannot Like, how can you have an issue then? Like, there is this belief that if you're so positive, then you can't have a mental health concern, which is not accurate at all. You could have it and still be a world champion, but you need to be able to face it and realize it. And I think that's the role that our team ends up playing, because the conversations that athletes have with their athlete managers and with the entire team, sharing some of the deepest challenges, because sometimes you can't go to your coach, you can't go to your parent, so your friends also have put you in this pedestal. So I think we also become their team when things are really low. Actually, we are there mostly when things are all down. And that is, and an athlete's life is very lonely. When you win, the world is there. When you lose, there's actually no one. So I think that's the role we want to play, and we have enjoyed playing. But a lot of work to be done. Social media, since you spoke about separately, there's a lot of trolling. I mean, we see that even with the Indian cricket team. When they're doing well, everybody's cheering for them, and they lose one match and they're trolling and they're throwing things and they're abusing. And I think it also comes back to the society's role, right, in accepting failures and losses. And I mean, we're not going to win every single time we step onto something. Nobody in the world does that. We all have our wins and losses. So is sport. So I think understanding that is critical. And social media is a very, very dark place for some athletes, and for female athletes, it's very hard. I mean, we've had situations where we've had to block multiple accounts, take them off social media for some time. The bullying, the trolling, and these are young 13, 14, 15, sometimes 18, 20, 22-year-olds. Your self-confidence is shattered by some anonymous person. So I think education is going to be critical, and building that authentic self, that nothing else gets in the way.
Do you also feel that sports can sometimes bring out toxic traits in people?
Sport is competitive. It okay, let me put it the other way. If we don't encourage sport for the benefits of what it can do to us beyond the medal, you are creating a system which is going to encourage toxic traits, which could be doping, which could be cheating, which could be all the other things, which is not fair in sport, right? We talk about clean sport, fair sport, and for that you have to know what is sport doing to us as people, for high performance and to the society beyond just the medals, right? Because if we are showing our young athletes, you win and I'll give you 8 crores, but on that journey I won't give you money, it's the fault of us as a country, right? So we are building those toxic traits by not creating a system which is fair, that you win and at this level you'll get this, at this level you'll get this, and that's how it is in most of the other places. Only here you come first rank and I'll give you everything. You win the medal and I'll give you everything. And if you come second also, I'm not interested, right? So that culture we have to have to shift a little bit.
So, someone heavily into sports, what do you do for physical fitness? How do you take care of yourself?
I play tennis. I also am part of this group called Sisters in Sweat. It's run by a girl called Shweta Subaya, again another Kodwa, and her partner Tanvi. This is about getting women to come and play sport. In fact, you should get her on your show as well, because today they have close to 8,000 women who are actually participating in different sports every single day. They've been doing it for the last 5 years. So I go and catch a basketball game, or I go and play. I play tennis in the club with my parents. I do some Pilates, but I do my yoga every day, and my sanity is meditation too. So I have over the years learned my model. I travel a lot. So the only thing that keeps me, my half an hour, 45 minutes is for me, and I will do something that puts me in a place of balance, and then really take it from there.
Great. And who are your all-time favorite sports persons?
I'm a Steffi Graf.
Ah.
I have always adored her, and I think just looked up to her for many years. But I think in India, many. I can't really pick and choose one. But I think the philosophy with how Rahul and Gopi and Abhinav honestly have managed their careers on and off court is very inspiring. Rahul Dravid, Pullela Gopichand, and Abhinav Bindra. All three legends in their respective sport. But just what it means to be an athlete, is very special.
So I'm a huge Dravid fan. And how did it feel when Dravid was on board and established a program with you? What was it like, and did it help your organization?
Of course. I think Rahul came in, he knew our trustee and co-founder Nandan, because they were also in school together, and there has been a relationship for many years there. But he always knew about the work we do. But in 2012, he was retiring from the international format of cricket, and then we were figuring out how he could get involved, and that's where we created this Rahul Dravid Athlete Mentorship Program. And even we coined this word called mentor that time, because he was like, I love to talk to people, I like to share, I like to think. So after we started this program, we always say he then went and took up the mentor role in many places. But I think it was every interaction that we've had just opens a very different perspective. And I think keeping it simple. We always think it has to be really complicated, and you can get into it from the depth of your field. And when you talk about excellence, it's about going into the last single detail, and you see that with him. But overall, as a human being, I think that's what matters at the end of the day, right? What kind of people we are, and do we bring joy where we go, and can we be kind and let everyone rise along with us.
So how is technology shaping the future of athlete training, and how is AI and data analytics transforming athletes' performance? What is your take on that?
I think a lot of technology and AI coming into sport in a very big way. In fact, we recently did a POC with Lenovo, who had just come on board, and we built something called as an athlete buddy, like an athlete twin. But this was more for an internal purpose. But there are many areas that AI can actually help, especially with data and patterns, and so far how India has fared and performed, and how do you then use that information, especially if India is planning to host the 2036. We'll need a lot of data, a lot of data crunching, a lot of patterns to be established to see what we can do and not do. I think we're still on the surface in many ways. There's a whole world to get to and do. We've slowly started at the foundation thanks to these conversations that we're having. Even for us, we have 16 years of data, which is very valuable. What do we do with it? How do we use that for the future, athlete, parent, donor, partner? There's a whole bunch of things. So we actually now have a 4-member tech team within the foundation itself. So it means,
yourself updated.
We have to. I think we can't be doing what got us here will not get us there.
So what did it mean for the foundation to receive the Rashtriya Khel Protsahan award in 2019?
I think getting a national award is an amazing feeling. I don't think any of us set out to get a national award. We knew our work is important, and we were doing our bit. But to actually go into Rashtrapati Bhavan, meet the president and get the award is a very special feeling. And to be acknowledged for, identifying and nurturing talent, which is such a special word to say that for the nurturing of it, you're getting, an award from the president of the country. I think it was very special, and it kind of, we were doing it in our own ways, but I think the minute you become a national award-winning organization, you suddenly get a national presence. So I think it helped us be a little bit more out there. I think our first 10 years, we just were like, no, let's first do something and then start talking. I think now we realize we have to talk also a little bit, which is why we're doing a lot of this. But yeah, it's been a special journey.
And 5 years from now, where do you see GoSports?
I think we moved to this whole model of athletes, academies, communities. So we'll be in far more academies, communities. I think it's about getting the ecosystem to believe in excellence in their own pockets and spreading this to as many places as possible. And when our base is broader, we'll automatically start seeing champions. I think it'll be a win-win for the nation. So that's how we see our next 5 years, and then right up to 2036, how that's going to go.
So finally, as a common man, how can I contribute when I come across an athlete who shows immense talent but is not getting the right opportunity or recognition?
Yeah. I think in those cases, that's exactly why we exist. We have an application form. People can write to us, apply for our scholarship, and we will go through that process and see whether they fit our criteria, and we can work with them. Separately, the Sports Authority of India also has separate links where you can go and register for the Khel India schemes and get supported even from there, depending on what sport you have. But most importantly, as a common, important person of the society, I would say, the civil society of this nation, try and go and watch athletes compete at state and national levels. Go and watch, our stadiums are empty. But today we will pay ridiculous amounts of money to go and see an IPL match, which is great, and that should also be there. I'm not saying don't do for cricket and come to us. I'm saying do it for all sports, because when a national record gets broken and you look around and you're like, okay, there's 15 people in the stadium, but it's a national record. Nobody has done it before you. So I would really encourage people to, track, watch, follow our handles, see where these tournaments are happening anywhere in the country. And if you want to be part of this journey, either to, to use your CSR or your donations, or to support, young girls or people with disabilities who have these dreams, get in touch with us.
Absolutely, that was so well said.